So, to let people just get their thoughts out about the film, I will start with you, Vatche. Vatche Boulghourjian is a person that you have decided to shoot this film with, and he's a blind person in real life. And I believe it was your choice to shoot with a blind person as opposed to shoot with an actor who could perform that. And at the same time, you have decided to shoot with Julia Assad, who's an established actress in Lebanon, and Barakat is really doing his very first acting film. So how did you first work this out with Barakat Japour, and how was the interaction between him and Julia Assad, who plays his mother in the film?
When I wrote the script, it was very clear to me from the very beginning that I wanted to cast a man who is blind in real life, and not an actor trying to convey blindness. There are a couple of reasons for this. One is that, I mean, first of all, for veracity, but also to shed any kind of cliche about blindness, because there are movies about blindness where actors are playing, the role of a blind character, but it's not. I didn't feel like the complexities could be conveyed as truthfully enough, and it comes down to the most minute details. Of how someone carries his body, for example, how one relates to someone else, and how one speaks to someone else. So all these little details were very important to me, and also ultimately it was very important to me to work with a man who is blind in real life, because if the role calls for a blind man, why cast someone who is sighted if he is perfectly capable of playing that role? And as you can see, Barakat just gave his whole heart and soul to this role. And so I wrote the script, so one of the interesting things was that after I wrote it the first time, the first draft, I had an ethical issue, actually, of making a film about a blind man, casting a man who is blind in real life, who would never be able to see the film. And so I started casting right away. And in Lebanon, in the community of blind men and women in Lebanon. And soon I found out that everyone would go to the theater and enjoy cinema and enjoy television, actually. So that ethical issue was soon dispelled. And I started casting in earnest and doing rewrites, and then we had the great fortune of meeting Barakat Japour at the School of Blind and Deaf in Lebanon, and since that moment on, we started developing not just a work relationship, a personal relationship, and that was 4 years ago now. 5 years ago, I'm sorry, and he's like family to us now. So, and he again was very interested in acting, because ultimately he's an artist, an amazing musician. He plays over 11 instruments very well, and sings, and is incredibly sensitive. So every time working with him, as opposed to a sighted actor, was a very new experience. But I learned from him, he learned from us, and it was just a beautiful, experience working together.
And when Julia came in?
Oh yeah, sorry. So when Julia came in, she immediately developed a very strong bond with Barakat, because Julia herself is just an incredible person, on top of being a great actress. She's very brave, she's very just honest, and she just bonded with him very, very strongly. And Barakat felt very close to her. And I must say that Barakat will not work with people if he feels the slightest doubt. he's so sensitive, he can tell in your voice, actually, if there's something that is slightly that causes him to doubt. And, but there was no reason to doubt any of the cast or crew. In this case, we were quite lucky, and it was a wonderful experience altogether.
Cynthia, I will go to you now. I had the pleasure to talk with the sound designer this summer, and she expressed how beautiful the interaction was between you and her, because you actually worked side by side to do the sound design and the score composition. And this was a very challenging project, because you're actually mapping the sound and the music for a guy who doesn't see. So how difficult was it to pull this together, knowing that the music and the sound is very important for this guy? It's everything in his ears and nothing is really visual. How important or how challenging was it to just come up with the wonderful score that you came up with for the film?
Thank you. When we started working with Barakat, it was obvious that everything was through the ears. So I thought it would be great if we can work on a soundtrack, on an entire soundtrack that can be understood from the perspective of a blind audience. And we came up with this soundscape, so that when you watch it, you can actually close your eyes, you can still understand the story. Because the sound design and the music and the mixing at the very end in post-production was actually the most interesting step in the many steps that it took. And this is when we decided that that sound was going to come from behind the audience, move in front of the audience. This sound is only coming from the front. I think that was the best part of the sonic experience as a whole.
And Barakat being himself a musician?
Well, it was great to see him watch the film the first time. And he enjoyed it a lot, of course. But Barakat is not just a great musician. Of course, he has perfect pitch, but he memorized the whole script by heart. He memorized his part and the part of all the other characters.
So he would remind people with their lines, actually.
And because there were no written notes, he would memorize by ear. So we would repeat a phrase, and then he would memorize it, and a month later, he would still play it. So he would memorize everything.
I have millions of questions to ask you guys, but I'd rather let the public share with us whatever they would like to share. Ask Vatche and Cynthia whatever you feel like. And we have a microphone which can pass around. If not, I can be very boring and go on like forever, so I'd rather not.
I have a question.
There is a question over there. There is over there.
Yeah. What?
Here.
Oh. Okay, obviously I'm doing a great job here.
I found it very interesting when the situation appeared, when I think it was in his mother's house, when he talked to his mother and found out that she wasn't actually his mother, and he said the sentence, "Everything seems to be fake." And that's so interesting because that's the main topic at the moment, where we're talking about what is fake and what is real, and how much are we being deceived, and what is the real truth. And then it goes on with this topic, what's real and what's fake. And I happen to have seen the film Matrix recently, which is about the same thing, about a fake and a deception. And the interesting thing is that the deception in the film Matrix appears, and it claims to be an allegory on what's the real world, evidently. That the deception in that film goes through the eyes, that everybody is being deceived by being able to see and receiving through the sense the illusion of what is real. So what's the connection with the fact that he's blind to the fact that he's the one who says everything seems to be fake in the film?
Thank you for your question. I mean, the blindness is a residue of the war, right? An accident caused his blindness, and he doesn't know what the accident was. He only knows that it was a war. It was in the national past. But that's besides the point. I mean, what it means to be blind also connotes, raises the question what it means to see, right? So, in his case, he happens to be the only person who is searching for some sort of truth, whereas the people who are sighted are willfully blind metaphorically. You see? So it's the mirror opposite of who he is. While he is searching in earnest for some sort of evidence, tangible or intangible, others are blocking, they're willfully blocking their efforts to see. And this raises another issue, whereas he may be physically handicapped, the others are psychologically and spiritually handicapped and damaged. So war leaves no one unscathed. It may damage some people physically, and to others it does immense damage spiritually. I hope this answers your question. Yeah, no, thank you.
Me? Okay. Thank you very much for the film. So I could understand a lot, but I'm super interested in the camera, of course, because it was so often so dark. It was beautiful. So please, could you tell a bit more about the camera?
With the other people we were casting at the time. And so we were learning about blindness as we started developing the film. And one of the things that I personally found, again and again, that was very moving was, for example, in the very early stages, for example, I was working with a man who was blind, and I was going to drop him home, and it was getting dark, and he started, I asked him if he knew if I should ask someone, and he described his house exactly, right? He said, okay, you make a U-turn here, you go, next to a gas station, there's a house with 2 red columns, and as it was getting dark, all the lights were going on, and I found the house, and only on the whole street, this one house was dark. The rest was all lit. And so he said goodbye, and I said goodbye, but I wanted to make sure he's safe, so I was waiting for him to go inside, and then with complete ease, he just left the car and just disappeared into this darkness with complete ease. That sight alone was very poetic for me. That was incredibly moving, just watching. So it wasn't about trying to emulate blindness. It was about capturing these moments that convey endless poetry for me. And later, for example, just him, for example, eating in the dark comes directly from this experience, a similar experience. And finally, with the cinematographer, there was something else that we were struggling with. For example, in a regular conversational scene in any movie, there is, like, for example, an axis, an eye line that's established, and let's say Rabia is talking with you. The camera is either set on this side or that side, and an axis is set, right? With Barakat, there was no eye line. Do you see? And he was either listening, his ear was his eye line, or he would turn this way, you know, either way. And so that allowed us to break the line altogether and move around, you know, completely freely, without over-stylizing. That's another thing that I wanted to avoid, to over-stylize, because I really wanted to stay true to the formal nature of the screenplay. I wrote the screenplay in a very formal way, in a very classical way, and I wanted to stay true visually as well to that. So, we broke that eye line, and again, in a very subtle way, it creates some degree of disorientation as well, but without overdoing it, of course. Of course. So it was an organic process. It's always organic.
Any further questions?
First, thank you very much for the movie because it was really amazing. I would like to ask you a question. Why you choose Barakat special? Because he's smart and he played 11 instruments? Or because his character fit with the movie? Or it was something for you it's special?
All of it, all of the above, really. I mean, Barakat is, I wish he was here with us right now. He could, you could see why, because he's not only an amazing artist, incredibly sensitive, really. I mean, not just in terms of being a musician, but just as an artist. And just a good human being. You know, so, and we became friends. He became like family to us. And we go to his house, he comes to our house. I mean, it's just, we've developed a very strong relationship with him. And so, I mean, it's very simple. We just love him, and he has incredible charisma. So, did you want to add something to it?
Maybe you didn't like him? Is that why
No,
you're
no,
asking?
No, I would like, because I was really interesting because his character, for me, it's fit with the movie, with the story. So, for you, because you really have experience about the movie and you see it's really fit, or for you it's special because you see you work with another people that are blind, and you choose him.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the main reason for you? Or because you just see it's fit with the movie?
He's just good. He's just like any other actor. You know, you go through a casting process. You know, some actors are better than others, and you just find the role, the actor who would fit that character better than others, for example. You know, and so that's exactly how it goes. But I mean, it also helps that he's just an amazing person. So.
But for example, if he was a blind actor, but he wasn't a musician, which was so important to the role, I mean, it's sort of he kind of ticked all the boxes. Couldn't you imagine a blind actor that wasn't a musician, but then you would have had to
train him.
Make that up rather than the blind thing up?
No. I mean, the script was always about a blind musician.
So he kind of had to tick those boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So when we started casting, we were always, for example, not just looking for someone who is blind in real life, who is willing to act, but also someone who can sing or is a musician. You know.
Play one instrument.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Because there is a school of the blind in Lebanon where they learn how to play an instrument. And in the original screenplay, he would be a singer in a choir. But then after meeting Barakat, Vatche started adding scenes where you actually see him play and improvise and rehearse. So the script also
evolved. You know, so it was always about a blind musician, but once we met Barakat, so we just decided to just upgrade to keep up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need a microphone. Basically, the Lebanese movie at Cannes is very inspiring to hear, being from Lebanon myself. I'm just curious to hear, how do you think that influences the credibility of filmmakers in Lebanon right now? Because I know from my friends who are that, you know, they're mocked in society as, you're gonna make a film, Habibi, good luck, you know? Do you think this is gonna be like a shift happening after this? Do you feel a change at all?
I hope so, but
you know, maybe there is something that is, I think, very Lebanese. It's to mock.
Yes.
So this is regardless of whether your work is good or bad. It's, we like to criticize, we like to, you know, it's a bit frustrating, but I think this year, for example, there are 15 Lebanese movies that are being made. 2 years ago, there were only 3. So the production is increasing, and maybe with the production, people are going to start to appreciate, respect, encourage. It's going to take some time, but it's on the way. And it's important. I think this is one way to move the society into a better place.
And it's encouraging to see that there are so many filmmakers who are undaunted by that kind of mockery, you know, and they still continue to dare making films about their own society, which is great, you know. You know how difficult it is to, you know, make films in general, but making films in Lebanon is even more challenging. And then in the face of that kind of mockery, as you say, is even more discouraging. But people are still making films, which is amazing, you know. So I think it's okay. It's going in the right direction.
I want to ask about the last 3 minutes of the film. You decided to show us the whole song. Why did you decide to show us the whole film? This song, it's about the music, or about the words of these songs, or about the capability of these people to play very well. So I was really so happy to hear it, because I can understand the word and the music, but so long here I didn't hear the song. About why did you decide the whole song for 4 minutes?
You know this song, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a song that's been performed for centuries and it can go on forever. And when they were shooting this scene, sometimes it would take 20 minutes. Sometimes it would take 15, 16, 30. And when they shot the last one that you shot, I think it was 12 minutes, and we cut it down to 6. So this is, you heard 6 minutes.
So we kept the whole song. I mean, even though it's edited to 6 minutes, it's still the entire song. And it was very important for me because I wanted to keep the integrity of this one song. Okay, I didn't want to just cut it. I wanted to have this moment of catharsis available to the audience. Because it is also the one time that Barakat, or Rabia, sorry, is able to, you know, express his catharsis to this extent. And I mean, I can give you other reasons why. Should we go on? I mean, because look, it's also the one time where he's able to show who he is. The thing that he acquires at the end, the passport with his name, he knows it's not the truth that he's seeking for. But he's sort of accepted it just to facilitate his life. But that is not him, he knows it. The only thing that is real for him is his voice and what he does in life. That is the only real thing for him. So it was both a moment that is cathartic, as well as a moment where he defines his identity.
You will take one further question.
Yes. I just would like to thank you for this nice film. Honestly speaking, sir, I liked the film. And I just would like to ask one question, because I think before you have shot this film, you were just deciding on which kind of character you are going to choose. I just would like to know why, for instance, you have not chosen a person who is not blind to play this role, and why you have opted, for instance, for a blind person. Was it because you wanted to create certain kind of solidarity among the viewers, who was not handicapped by his own handicap, and who has proven to be able to see truth by his heart more than the other people who have sight? And I would like just to add one thing, because I felt there was another truth in the film, is his relationship with his mother. At one point he calls her by as his mom, and at the end of the film he goes and he puts his head over her shoulder, as if this is the place where he relieve all his worries. Was it because you wanted to convey a message that the feeling among human beings, and especially among parents and children, are more attained by heart than, for instance, by the other senses like sight? Do you want to convey a message that this warm feeling is something that someone could, this family identity is more attained by the heart than by other things? And I would like to say one thing is that the good thing about the film is that the scenes they are not too long. It goes in sequence, and the sequence it goes with is very good in a certain way that it kept us interested in knowing a little bit more, and it was not boring. I would like to thank you for this film, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Well, actually, I mean, I must say, that was one of the, yeah, you guys, I mean, he has a question. But this is a very interesting question. So, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I just asked how long did it take to shoot this film, because as I saw in the film that Barakat was so acquainted with the place of shooting. So that was my question.
Well, this comes back to the reason why I, for example, chose to work with a person who is blind in real life as well, to shed these cliches or taboos about what it means to be blind. But he doesn't need to have a stick. Barakat actually refuses to use a stick because at the school, excuse me? Well, no, they teach him that there is no difference. There is no difference between you, like Barakat, and everyone else. So there is no handicap. So, you know what I mean? And I wanted to add to that. I wanted to show that in the film. You see what I mean? To show how strong he is, what kind of core he's built inside of himself. And he, for example, all the Barakat, as well as all the other children at the school, and the teachers who are also blind, they memorize the entire school. They know the school. Barakat knows his house, of course, completely. And I wanted to show this in the film as well. And so, but of course, not all the locations he knew, and so he was acquainted with the place, and very soon he memorized all the locations and where there was a table, where there was a wall, where there was, you know, so he got acquainted very fast. And yeah, it was, but it was very important for me to show that he can navigate through familiar places very easily, and especially navigate through darkness when others can't navigate through darkness.
Before wrapping up, I would first like to thank Vatche and Cynthia for being with us tonight. Two very small things. First, we have audience favorites, so if you can vote outside, it's just for us to see which film was really the crowd pleaser of the festival this year. Second, of course, Vatche and Cynthia will be with us until the weekend because we have another screening for the film on Sunday, so if you would like to inform your friends or whoever you would think might enjoy this film, so the film has another screening. And third, and most importantly, we're inviting you all for food and drinks outside, and Vatche and Cynthia are with us if you would like to talk to them on a more private level. And finally, we hope to see you around in the coming days of the festival. So thank you so much.